Part 3. You will hear two architecture students called Yasmin and Ben talking about their project on sustainable building. First, you have some time to look at the first group of questions. Now listen carefully and answer the first group of questions.
Hi Yasmin, shall we talk through our project on sustainable building?
Great. I've really enjoyed learning about it, especially as I didn't know much before starting the project. I was keen to know more about renewable schemes for heating and cooling buildings, and I've learned so much.
Actually, I'd always been more interested in finding out about less conventional and more sustainable materials, and also how buildings can be made to fit in with the surrounding area, which we've covered in depth.
I'd learned a bit about that in my work experience last year, but I wanted to study environmentally friendly building components too. So I agree. That's been really informative.
How influential do you think the regular Earth Day event has been?
Well, it's had a huge effect on attitudes to protecting the environment. The first Earth Day was in 1970, and it originated in the USA, I read. The effect of environmental contamination on public health had recently been brought to people's attention in a book called Silent Spring. The Earth Day event followed on from that and prompted changes to several laws across the globe, including some related to planning and construction. 20 years later, Earth Day went global, reaching about 140 countries, I think, and it's very influential nowadays.
Definitely. That power plant in Copenhagen in Denmark we read about was interesting.
Yes, I couldn't believe it has a ski slope on the roof and hiking trails across it. At first, I wondered what the point of it was, but I suppose the multi-purpose aspect is a key feature of sustainable buildings.
Right. And it's amazing what you can do there. There's a climbing wall as well. I do think it looks ugly, though. Such a big and noticeable construction.
Well, I think it's better than most power plants. Oh, we learned a lot from our research on that architecture firm, didn't we? I wondered if they were really as green as they said they were, but their claims turned out to be pretty accurate.
As far as we could tell, yes. It's certainly good marketing for them to advertise their reputation as sustainable designers, although I think there are other firms that probably do more to promote environmentally friendly architecture.
Yes, being thought of as designing sustainable buildings must have won them plenty of contracts. Anyway, what did you think about the documentary we watched? It was quite informative, wasn't it?
Those forecasts about the possible social and environmental effects of building by 2050 were quite shocking, although to be expected, I suppose. And I didn't realise that people are indoors for about 90% of their lives. That seems a lot.
That was news to me too. It also said that buildings are responsible for 40% of all carbon emissions, which was about what I'd have guessed.
Right.
You read up about a library being built in South Africa, didn't you? Was that interesting?
Yes, definitely. The floor's made entirely of stone found in the area, and it also incorporates local mud and wood. What I think is really unusual, though, is the way the building's made up of 8 domes, which look like grain stores, to represent the shape of buildings in African agricultural communities. I love that aspect. It's going to be open to the public soon, I think.
Hmm.
What did you think about the tiny homes idea? I had no idea they were so small, so they really do help to reduce your carbon footprint.
Yes, interesting. I like the way they use every part of each room, so beds and desks can be folded into the wall, for example. And I suppose they're cheaper in the long run than normal houses.
Yes, because heating and lighting bills are low, but the houses aren't actually as cheap to buy as you might think. I do think the multifunctional rooms are clever though, and the designs are really cool.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at the second group of questions. Now listen and answer the second group of questions.
OK, Ben, I've got a list of different buildings that we studied, and I just want to make a note of which sustainable features we were impressed by in each of them.
Good idea.
So, how about the Peace Building in Malaysia? Was that the one that was entirely built with bricks that had been recovered from another building?
I think it's the one with greenery all over the walls of the building, and plants to attract bees and butterflies on the roof too, remember?
Oh, yes. It promotes biodiversity and also helps to control the temperature of the building. I love that. I remember reading about Ingle Towers.
In the Netherlands?
Yes, it's tall and slim with glass exteriors, which means it gets a lot of daylight, and that reduces energy consumption during winter.
Very clever. How about the WNT block in Mexico? We should mention that one because it has an unusual layout, which means people who live there are protected from the sun, and it doesn't need air conditioning.
Yes, that's an interesting design feature. I've got the Polo on my list, which is in Italy. It has solar panels and wind turbines on the roof, which keep the building running.
Right. And I think that works so well that it actually powers other local buildings as well.
Exactly.
What about Simpson Galleries in Zimbabwe? That uses recycled water in the heating system.
Yes, and incredibly, it's designed to still be standing in 500 years, apparently.
That is incredible.
The last building on my list is One Pebble Square in the US. I want to include this one because everyone living there has the same app which helps them to save money.
Yes, by monitoring their own heating and lighting remotely and using the minimum necessary. Really clever.
It's a great idea. OK, I think that's it. So maybe...
That is the end of Part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to Part 3.